Welcome to the ClassyJS devlog number 1. We're going to go ahead and treat this as an intro to ClassyJS. You can download the minified file for version 1 right now on classyjs.com. So go get that if you're interested. To start, I'd like to go over 4 topics of ClassyJS. What it is, why it is, how it got here, and then we can dig into a little bit of detail on ClassyJS to help you get started. At a high level, it's a class-based framework written entirely in JavaScript. It provides many of the mechanisms you're used to in object-oriented programming. Classes, obviously, private, protected, and public instance members, static members, getters and setters, inheritance, packages, importing of other classes, and honestly, the list goes on. Next, onto why I made ClassyJS. ClassyJS came about because of my love of object-oriented programming and some frustrations with limitations I found in JavaScript. Finally, it got here along a very lengthy road. It was developed over many years. In its first incarnation, it was called FreshScript. Eventually, I hit some roadblocks and frustrations with the way it was implemented, and that led to a complete rebuild. And this was called ClassObject. Finally, after a lot of successful exploration, I built ClassyJS. Let's dig into some examples. The first thing we need to do is get ClassyJS into the code. So let's do that real quick. So with this in place, we should see ClassyJS loading up. Let's see if we're getting it. All right, good. No errors. Let's hop back over to the code side. Now that we've got ClassyJS loading in, we actually need to use it. So ClassyJS allows you to create a main class and then use that class to do whatever you want, including using additional classes. But let's start with the basics. Now that we've got ClassyJS here, we're going to run a ClassyJS program. The first part of running that program is going to be telling it the name of the main class. We can call it anything, but for here we're going to call it main. And then let's go ahead and tell it some parameters. The parameters list is fairly lengthy, but what we're going to focus on right now is the path for where the classes live. So to tell ClassyJS where the classes live, we add it into the parameters list over here by telling it the path. In this case, we're going to put everything in the JavaScript folder. It does need to end with a trailing slash. Let's go ahead and actually make this file. When building a ClassyJS class, it always needs to start with a package. In this case, we're building just a pretty basic class, so it doesn't actually have a package name. So we're going to leave it blank. Normally you would put a package name right here, but we're not going to worry about that for the moment. Now we've got our package in place. Now let's go ahead and give it a class name. This needs to match the name of your class. So it is main. In the future, you can extend other classes, which allows you, of course, to inherit. But for now, we're just going to give this class a definition. This is where all of your code is going to really live for your class. We're going to start with a constructor. We're going to make it public. That's really all there is to writing your first class. So we can see that it's working. Let's do the classic hello world. Hello world. So that worked. That was great. Let's come back over here. That's the lowest level of approaching how to write a class. We can build it out a little further. Let's say that we wanted to have a greeting. So we're going to make a private variable. And it's just going to say hello. So if we wanted to use that here, we would need to say this dot greeting and then plus world. The way this works is this is now a private variable for this class. So when the constructor runs, it's available to it. Just to make sure that it's worked, let's go ahead and add the exclamation point there so we see a change. We'll come back over here, click refresh. There it is, hello world. Let's dig a little bit deeper. We can actually add parameters to the constructor, and let's give it a parameter of name. That means that name needs to get passed into this constructor from somewhere. So let's come back over here. If we want to pass a name in, we can do that right here inside of the index.html, where ClassyJS run is called. It's setting up ClassyJS, and it's also setting up what ClassyJS is running. It's going to run main. It's going to use the path JS / for all classes. And now we can also pass in some parameters. Parameters can be a string or it can be an array of information. For this case, all we need to really worry about is a string. Let's pass in the name of my dog. He's awesome. So now Hugo is going to get passed in as the name for the constructor and then inserted here when we run. Let's go back over and take a look. There we go. Hello, Hugo. And that's it for our brief intro to ClassyJS. Thanks for joining me. If you have any questions or thoughts, please post them below in the comments.